It is my absolute pleasure to introduce a member of the National Football League to you. Xavier Cooper, the son of Lewis Cooper, is a member of the Cleveland Browns. If you check out the Browns website, you will read that Xavier is a 6'4", 300-pound defensive tackle, and he wears number 96. He played collegiately at Washington State University. Again, it is my pleasure to welcome Xavier to the podium. I want to shake your hand again.
All right, let me get this mic together. It's short for me. All right, so I had to put this message together for my father on the plane, so I'm using a device. Sorry about that. First of all, I would like to thank Doane University for having this event, honoring this great women and men tonight. I was reading in the brochure, they call my pops the mountain man. More like the spa man. I'm telling you, he gets more pedicures than anybody I know. Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit about my father. I'm sure you guys are reading the brochure already. Lewis Cooper was born in the late 1947 and was raised in the inner city of Chicago, Illinois by Lula Cooper and Lewis Cooper Sr. Receiving a scholarship to the University of Nebraska in 1960, he was already defeating the odds for an African-American man at this time. He would leave the University of Nebraska and receive a scholarship to a more prestigious university, Doane College at that time. After finishing his degree, he had a brief stint with the Houston Oilers as well as the Baltimore Colts. Then shortly after that, receiving his master's. Lewis Cooper now is the senior head of security for the Port of Tacoma in Tacoma, Washington. Who would have thought, facing all these different trials and tribulations, he myself would be standing here today? The great Henry Ford once said, I quote, "Life is a series of experiences, each one which makes us bigger." Even though sometimes it's hard to realize this, for the world built to develop character, and we must learn that the setbacks, griefs, which we endure help us in our marching onwards. To me, this quote applies to my everyday life and something my dad stressed upon me every day. That no matter what obstacles you face in life, keep moving forward with a smile on your face. People ask me all the time, how do I feel about making it to the league and so forth, and how proud I am. You know, I ran out, my first game was against the Oakland Raiders. I got my first sack against Phillip Rivers. But there was one particular moment I remember, and it was a Monday night game against the Baltimore Ravens. And I asked the coaching staff to allow me to use one of their sideline passes. Most players don't get a sideline pass unless you've been on a big contract or you're past your fifth or sixth year, and they gave me the pass. And I remember warming up, and I remember just seeing my pops, and he was on the sideline just acting like a big kid. I remember all the players was walking by, and he had just this smile on his face. I never forget it. And I was like, man, he is so excited to be here. He is so excited to be here. But that was a proud moment for me, because to me, I didn't play the game, and I never wanted to make it to the NFL for myself. It was about my father and my mom and all the sacrifices they made for me. When I'm playing on Sundays, I'm representing the Cooper name, and I know my dad wouldn't want it anyway. And so I try to talk to these schools and educate these young men and women. Don't achieve greatness just for yourself, but do it for others, because we always want to help others. At times of my life, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I couldn't have got anywhere without my pops. So with this being said, let's give a round of applause for tonight's inductee, Lewis Cooper Jr.
Xavier, come down.
Good evening. I did not expect him to tell you about my pedicures, believe me. And I've been trying for 2 years to get him to go with me. He just said, Pops, that's for you, that ain't me. First, I want to say briefly, I'm humbled to be here. I want to congratulate the fellow inductees here tonight. I first want to give honor to God, because He is above all. And I want to recognize my family and friends who have come to be with me tonight. Some have come as far as Port Arthur, Texas. And I also want to first recognize the people who are not here with me tonight who were friends of mine. Ron Hatchett, Mike Wynn, Leslie Grant. But tonight with me is my daughter Laura, who everybody knew as Little Laura, because Laura used to be with the cheerleaders when I played here in 1965, when I went to Nebraska. But when I got here in 1968, she was one of the cheerleaders. And everybody called her Little Laura, so it was like a family to help take care of her. My baby girl, Keisha, who could not be here, my grandsons, Ron and Marcus, my granddaughter, Jasmine, and my great-granddaughters, Asia and Avery. And of course, my son-in-law, soon-to-be son-in-law, Anthony Proctor. But most importantly, too, as well, is my teammates, Mike Saye, Burrell Williams, Glenn Mitchell, Jack Bourgeois, Larry Green, Bernard and Sharon Brown, Jim Hawkins, who was my teammate at the University of Nebraska many years ago, and a mentor, Reggie Robinson, who's always been a friend. They've come to see me take this step. Life is a series of journeys, we all know that. I spent 2 years at the University of Nebraska, and much of what my son has said, much of what has been written about me, people really don't know, but I had a difficult time at the University of Nebraska. I grew up in inner city Chicago and came from a family with 9 uncles who journeyed from the South, who broke the color barriers in the trades in Chicago, and I was always taught to be respectful, not to take anything less than what I deserve, always be demanding but respectful, have pride in what you do, and work hard. My father's journey was even harder. There were a lot of promises made to me and my family in 1965 when Tom Osborne and Bob Devaney came to our 6-room house in Chicago, 6-room apartment in Chicago, and I signed my letter of intent in January. 2 years later, all those dreams and promises were gone. Some of it was my fault, some of it was the institution's fault. It was not the time. I was very outspoken on the team. I never took no as an answer. And quite frankly, I was pretty much a hothead. I was told once by my defensive line coach, he pulled me aside after a scrimmage, and he told me to stop beating up on one of their All-Americans. This is an All-American player, and I was a sophomore redshirt. And I asked him why. He said, because you can't keep beating up on him. He's better than you. I said, well, if he's better than me, why am I beating up on him? It was a constant struggle with him and several others. And so eventually they took my scholarship. When I called my mother and father and told them that they had taken my scholarship, my dad was pissed. See, he never cared about the football part of me. What he wanted from me was to be the first person in our family to get a degree. He said, well, they can't do it. I said, well, Dad, they did do it. My mother, being the woman she is, and my father got on the phone at that time with Coach George Kelly and Bob Devaney and said, would you please give my scholarship back to my son? And my mother cried. And they told my mother there was nothing they could do for me. They couldn't find another college for me to go to, and that likely I would probably end up coming back to Chicago without a degree. Not giving in to anyone defining who I am, I took a job in Lincoln with Ready Mix Concrete Company. I drove a cement truck, and I kept working out. And when I tell you I was a fanatic at working out, I was a fanatic. JB reminded me of a time that I was working out, and I was sitting in my Monte Carlo. It was 95 degrees outside, and I had a sweatsuit, a plastic sweatsuit on because I was trying to lose 3 pounds. I took my job very seriously. And At the end of 1967, a gentleman by the name of Al Papik, or the Fox, called me. Now, Coach Papik wanted to come up and talk to me in Lincoln, and I couldn't figure out why, but I knew people here at Doane College, particularly Les Grant, and he said he wanted to talk to me about coming to play football. And it was a time in my life that I was crushed, I was angry, somewhat depressed, but I was never going to give up. Coach Papik came up and talked to me about playing for Doane College. I jumped at the opportunity. Didn't blink an eye, didn't think about it. I said, how soon can I start school? He said, you can come in January of 1968. For that, Coach Papik, from my heart, I want to thank you. I told my wife I wasn't going to get emotional. I'm trying not to. When God closes one door, he opens another. Coach Papik was that door opening for me to Doane College. This is a great time of celebration for all 5 of us. I'm telling you, when we were here when I was here from 1968 to 71, we had a badass football team. In 1969, I don't know how many of you read the article, but Sports Illustrated said, the small school you can learn to hate. We had Mike Sallier, who led all division rushers in the United States in rushing. He had scored as many touchdowns as O.J. Simpson, but they were still talking about O.J. Simpson. And look at O.J. today. That's how bad our team was. And then there was the parties at the house in Lincoln, Nebraska. I had my own home, and they still call it the house. And we went by the house today to look at it. I only share this part of the history with Doane College because it wasn't just about football. It was about me growing up as a young man, and it's about taking a different course in my life and a different journey. I appreciate from the bottom of my heart what Doane College has done for me. The experience, opportunity came into my life at the right time. The people and the coaches and the friends that I made here touched my soul, and they truly encompass true friendships. 50 years of friendships. You know, I didn't graduate on time because I didn't like my Spanish teacher. Here I go again. I left Doane College without a degree because me and my Spanish teacher got into it. But I came back and got it, and we worked it out. On St. Patrick's Day, I turned 69. And I was thinking about what I was going to say today. And the only thing I can say is that God has blessed me tremendously. I want to thank my wife of 26 years, who has given me 2 beautiful children, and who has been nana to all of our great-grandchildren and our grandchildren. And she is my friend and my confidant. Doane College has allowed me to make some lifelong friends. Many are here today. And my life has been better by that as a man. Life has its twists and turns, and this one is one of those, which I look back at. It was meant to be. I was blessed to be able to be part of a change here at Doane College, not only on the football team, but culturally for this organization, for this school. There weren't very many African Americans here then. There weren't very many African Americans in Nebraska. And when we spoke up, people listened. I want to end with a very powerful quote from an African civil rights singer called Marion Makeba. I don't know if any of you are familiar with her. She was very active in the 60s and the 70s. She won a Grammy in 1967. I quote, we all end up in places, and we cannot say how we got there or why. All we know is we must keep singing. I cannot hope to make sense of my life. I can only hope to continue the struggle and keep singing. Marion Makeba, My Story, 1987. I hope you all keep singing and stay blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Lewis. Mark Madison, Doane class of 1996, came to Doane from Nebraska City. He played basketball here, and he played it with everything he had, even though there were some physical limitations that were similar to asthma that made him gasping for his breath. In fact, Matty may have been the hardest working player in the history of Doane basketball. He was gassed at the end of each game because of how hard he played. Matty played on the team for 4 years with Chris Dahl, and they stay in touch regularly. They're like brothers. What means a lot to me is that they stayed in touch with Coach Erickson after they graduated from Doane. Coach loved them, and they stayed in touch, and that was important. In addition to starting a farming operation, Matty teaches journalism at Lord Central Catholic High School in Nebraska City. Matty, come forward.
Good evening. Chris is my best friend, and we talk weekly, still to this day. But you guys want to hear about the basketball, Chris. And I'll tell you the stories I can tell you. And I can sum up the basketball, Chris, in one word, and that's consistency. And I'll give you 3 stories to describe that. When Dahl showed up, he came from Ralston. He was 185-pound rail. And those prancing fawns that Dr. Brown were talking about, that ain't Chris. And he spent the next 4 years lifting weights and transformed himself. And his consistency there was unbelievable. And got a story. Erickson had a lot of respect for his work there. So our senior year, Erickson thought Chris should run the weight room in preseason. So he took the team through his arm workout. It was arm day. And everybody got through the workout. And the next day we showed up to play. And there's like a line of guys along the wall that can't play because they can't straighten their arms out. That was the mother of all backfires for Coach. I think Andy just straightened his arm for the first time about a week ago, I think. Yeah. But that's just his dedication in the weight rooms is unbelievable. Made it impossible to get around him. I tried for 3 years. I couldn't. He just crush you inside. The other thing, he was so consistent with his shot. He would shoot hours and hours and hours, and it was a step back, high banking shot. And the balance is very difficult, the footwork is difficult, and just money, over and over. We were playing Air Force our senior year, and we were usually their whipping post. And Chris was playing unbelievable. He would never tell you the story. He's playing unbelievable and keeping us in the game. And they're 6'8" guys. He's just thrashing them. And the kids yelling, coach is yelling at him, the kid's yelling, and this Air Force kid, what do you want me to do? Their coach looks right at Chris. I want you to play like him, just like that. And it's a shot. They couldn't stop it. And lastly, his consistency in the huddle is special. I don't know if you guys know this. 20-year-old men don't run on reason. They're a little bit emotional. And sometimes when things aren't going well, they get a little fired up. And Chris is always a rock. And keep us all cool and keep us level-headed and grind it out. And a great example of that, we were down 22, conference tournament senior year. And things aren't going well. And Chris kept his we're all angry, and keeps us calm, and he grinds back and leads us back. And one of the most dramatic finishes, I've coached for 16 years, and Chris scores 3 points in the last possession of that game. Ball comes off, he jumps up, tips it in, and just does this. And the crowd, back then you could rush, and the crowd just comes in and just rushes him and buries him. As one of the most unbelievable finishes ever. But his leadership, his calm and the fire, and that's Dahl. And all the guys here, Chris, want to congratulate you, and you're more deserving than I can say. So, my turn. Awesome. Good job.
Oh boy. When I first came to Doane, I wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to play. In high school, I didn't get to play until my senior year, and the first couple weeks here, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to play at all. And to go from that first year, and I was just struggling, my only goal was to make the team. To be here tonight is beyond any expectations that I had, so I'm very humbled and very grateful to be here tonight. There's a long list of people that helped me along the way, and one of the first ones that comes to mind is was Coach. I knew this was going to happen. So apologize for the lack of eye contact. I'm just going to try to get through this. But he was the one that brought me to Doane. He gave me the opportunity to play every day. He believed in me, and the system that he ran was catered to guys like me. And so I was very fortunate, and he strongly encouraged to get the ball inside, and I know I benefited. Strongly encouraged was a nice way of putting it. But I certainly benefited from that, and it's nights like tonight where I'm missing the most, because he wouldn't be breaking into tears right now. He lived these kind of nights. He was would just kind of hold court and tell stories all night, and I can never be as entertaining as that, believe me. And I know it's a real stretch to imagine you'd be entertaining right now. So I appreciate Sarah being here. It means a lot. I thank my teammates. Without them, I wouldn't be here. This wouldn't be possible. Playing the position I did, I relied on them for so much. They covered for me on defense. They waited for me on offense. I still can't watch tapes because I'm always the last guy. But they always seem to find a way to make me look good, which wasn't always easy. It's what they did for me off the court that probably mattered the most. I wasn't the easiest guy to be around. I'm slow, I'm picky, I'm pretty methodical. Some may even say rigid. And so they took me in anyway. For some reason I don't know, but they made me a better person as well as a better player. I saw what they did every day, how much they cared, how much time they put in, and all the sacrifices that they made. And so that drove me, because I didn't want to be the one to let them down. And so, well, this may be an individual award tonight. It's as much of theirs as it is mine. 'Cause I wouldn't be here without it. So it's let's see. So I appreciate everything they did for me, both on and off the court. And this award tonight is as much a reflection of what you guys did and what you accomplished as anything I did on my own, because it wouldn't have happened without you. I'd like to thank my parents, Bill and Judy, and my sisters, Michelle and Andy. Growing up, I didn't lack for much. Every game I had to go to, they were there. There were a lot of early morning practices, a lot of road trips, a lot of late nights, time away from work. But they never complained. They rarely, if ever, missed any games. And I know there were a lot of other places that they would much rather have been, my sisters, that is. But I hope they got something out of it along the way, all of them, because I know I certainly did. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Amy, and my girls, Maggie and Allie. I'm very blessed to have them in my life. I can't imagine them not being there. So they probably have the hardest job out of anyone here, because they have to put up with me every day. So, like I said, I couldn't imagine it without it, so thank you for all that you do for me. Lastly, I'd like to thank Doane. It's done so much for me over the years. I got a great education, memories to last a lifetime, and the best friends a guy could ask for. So this is just the icing on top of the cake, so thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor. It's an honor that means a lot to me and to my family, and it's certainly something that we'll never forget. So again, thank you for thinking of me and for having me tonight.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Chris. Fred Biley, one of our legendary coaches, needs no introduction, but here is a brief one. Coach Biley became head men's cross-country coach in 1961, and he's been on this campus ever since. Fred has an office in Fear Fieldhouse, and the arena in that facility bears his name. He is an assistant track coach currently. Fred was inducted into the NAIA Hall of Fame in 1987 and Doane's third Athletic Hall of Fame class in 1998. Fred does something very important quietly and out of the spotlight. In his semi-retirement, he takes time to nominate and complete the paperwork for individuals who are worthy of being inducted into the NAIA Hall of Fame. That is a busy work project and procedure, and recently we've had several Doane athletes and coaches receive induction into the NAIA Hall of Fame. Fred, please come forward to share about Christina Ruby Barber.
Thank you, Cody. Ladies and gentlemen, it's extremely pleasurable for me and a great honor to be up here to introduce you to Christina Barber. I was fortunate enough to have coached her for 4 years, recruited her to come to Doane, and it's a positive experience from my standpoint. That Christina was an outstanding athlete and an outstanding student is a matter of record. You can look at the bio in the handout that you have at your table, and you can see that she's just not some run-of-the-mill athlete. This was an extremely successful young woman, both in the classroom and on the athletic field. The thing that, from my standpoint, that set Christina apart from other athletes, and believe me, folks, as a coach over 50 years or whatever, I've had my share of very talented athletes who are really a pain in the neck, or some other part of the lower anatomy. Simply because you're a great talented athlete doesn't necessarily mean you're easy to coach. Christina Barber was the easiest person to coach ever in the history of mankind. The thing that I appreciated the most about her was she was simply a happy person. She came to practice every day with a smile on her face. And believe me, I didn't come to practice every day with a smile on my face. And so it was hard for her, I think, and she had to work at it. She was an absolute joy to coach. She competed as hard as anybody that we have ever had wearing an orange and black suit. If you were looking for a poster person for Doane track and field and cross country and the success that we have had over the period of years, Christina Barber would be the #1 person that I would pick. Christina, come on up.
We'll get a quick picture, guys.
Yeah, be my guest.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so very much. And it is quite an honor just to be up here with the other 4 inductees. You guys are truly awesome. Thank you for all of that you have done for Doane too. Fred, you were a wonderful coach, and I had to bring this lovely t-shirt that we had, several of us girls had made. Suzanne Weeder, let's see, Brenda Rao, Chris Skillman, Brandy Schwank, several of us gals. Some famous motivational quotes by Fred. Put the hammer down. I've seen better performances at the Crete Elementary Play Day. Yep. You don't need to practice being slow. You're slow enough as it is. We're burning daylight. My Aunt Sadie is faster than that. And my personal favorite, and we're off like a herd of turtles. Just a few, there's more. Fred, thank you for your support and believing that I could be successful in cross country and track at Doane before I even knew I could. Donovan didn't have cross country as a sport for girls and boys, and I hadn't even run a step of cross country in my life before coming to Doane. And so I'm very thankful, Fred, that you took a chance on me, scholarshiped me to come here. You knew way more than I did, obviously, so thank you. And thank you for allowing me to run for Doane. Definitely want to thank my parents for their love and support. The many years of putting up with me running cross country here at Doane, but track and all the other sports that I played through high school and everything else. Thank you also to John and my family for, especially John, for coming to all those cross country and track meets here at Doane and all over the state as well, and other states, I guess. Let me tell you, it takes lots of love and tenacity to go to all of those cross country and track meets, especially the cross country meets. Has any of you been to one? Seriously? You get the beginning, you get the end, and maybe one thing in the middle. It's a lot of running for the spectators too. So thank you for sticking with me too. I also want to thank God for giving me the strength, the talent, and even the very breath to run. He is my strength and comfort, and I am so very blessed that he chose me not only for this great honor, but most importantly, to be his daughter, and that I may serve him. So, thank you.
Thank you, Coach, and thank you, Christina. When I asked Stacy Vendetti Corbett about choosing a presenter, she quickly replied that her father, John, had a huge influence on her life. According to Stacy, John was an encourager, a supporter, and attended all of her college soccer games. At this time, John, I welcome you to the podium.
That's not the way to start out, Stace. I'm just a dad. A proud dad. Technically, I have 2 kids in the Doane College Hall of Fame because I had a daughter that ran for Fred's 2001-2002 national championship teams. So I don't think very many people can say they have 2 daughters in the Hall of Fame at Doane. Stacy was our oldest. Of course, we brought her down to school here, first to leave the nest. Cindy and I brought her down, not knowing what to expect. They had soccer practice that day we came down here. So we packed her up, brought her down, unpacked her, said our goodbyes. Mom, of course, crying like a baby. She gets in the car, I tell Stacy goodbye, and we watch her in the back rearview mirror as we pull out. We're heading north on the highway. Cindy just got stopped crying at about Pleasantdale as we headed towards the interstate and back to La Vista. And Cindy asked me, what did Stacy tell you when she was hugging you goodbye? I said, well, Cindy, she told me she loved me more. The tears come down again. But since I'm up here, maybe it was a true story. So they said I had a couple minutes to say something about Stacy, a story or something like that. There's numerous stories, but Dr. Brown said something about passion. I don't call it passion, I call it heart for Stacy. In the fall of her senior year of high school, she's playing club soccer, and one October evening, she went up for a header, and she landed, screaming for her dad. Of course, you're not supposed to run on the field. Dad runs out on the field. Stacy blew her ACL that fall. In Nebraska, we play soccer in the spring. So it was going to be a battle trying to get back for her to finish out her soccer career at Papaya La Vista High School. But with a lot of hard work, they put it back together. She worked hard. She finished out her senior year and was inducted into the Papaya La Vista Hall of Fame. She didn't have very many scholarship offers. Doane coaches came up to Papaya La Vista to see a goalie that Stacy played with. And the soccer coach says, hey, you might want to take a look at this player that I had a knee injury, not too many offers. About 2 days later, we had a visit from the Doane coaches, and Stacy came to Doane. As a freshman, she played defense. There were a team of a lot of freshmen because it was only the second year of the soccer program at Doane, I believe. She played all over, mostly defense, eventually working her way up to forward, and scored some goals. Stacy wasn't the most talented, but again, she had heart. She played from the beginning of the game until the end of the game, no matter what the score was. She transitioned from her freshman year into sophomore year, and about 3 games into the season, she said, "Boy, my left knee doesn't feel right." She said it just kind of hurts. So I think Brad here might have had something to do, rehabbed, got her little knee brace. She went on to play 3 more games and then had to shut it down for the season because the knee just didn't feel right. Took her into a knee surgeon. He said, she's got a torn cartilage in there. We'll repair it over Thanksgiving and be done. Well, they went in and scoped it. Doctor come out, had a look on his face and said, "She tore her ACL again." Which he said, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know it was an ACL, and I think Brad can say that nobody thought it was an ACL. So when Stacy got out and back in recovery, we had to tell her her ACL was gone and she had to start all over. Or she could have quit and just been done with it. She's been through a lot. Well, of course, Stacy, with the heart, rehabbed, come back her junior year, finished her senior year, ended up being the leading scorer at Doane College and GPAC Player of the Year. To me, most players would have never came back. And that's why she's honored to be in the College Hall of Fame at Doane College here. Come on up, Stace.
Thanks, Dan. First, I want to thank the selection committee for this amazing gift. I'm truly honored to stand up here with all the other inductees. To my parents, your support and unconditional love has been amazing all these years. You drove me all over this country so I could play the sport I love. Through every high and low of my soccer career, you were both right there cheering me on. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. To both my sisters, who tagged along to every tournament, even if they didn't want to be there. April becoming my roommate at Doane, making sure cross-country practice ran right by the soccer field so she could check on the scores. Jenny, one of my biggest fans. No matter how the game went or how it turned out, you always told me I did a great job. Thank you both for being my biggest cheerleader. To my grandmother, oh, how I wish Grandpa was here today to see this. You both supported us all through everything that we did, and we're always so proud of us. Thank you for always being there. To all the family and friends who are always there to help my parents out, watching my younger sisters or rearranging schedules so they could come watch me play. It is a true testament to friendship and relationships that have lasted a lifetime. Thank you. To my awesome teammates, without you guys, I would not be standing here today. Always, with every up and down, today is not just about me, it is about all of us. I'm proud to call you my teammates and friends, and couldn't have asked for a better group of ladies to experience my collegiate career with. Thank you for making this possible. Jeff, Jackson, and Miley, thanks for being here today. I was just a girl who loved to play soccer. I'm so glad that I get to share this moment with you. Jackson and Miley, you are the future of student athletes, hopefully here at Doane. And I hope I have begun to instill in you the heart and dedication it takes to follow your dreams. Never give up, be a good teammate, and always love the game you play. Never lose sight of the reason you love your sport so much, It will be something that you carry with you for the rest of your life. Thank you all so much for all of your support over the years and the opportunity to celebrate this great honor.
I have something to admit. The floodgates are getting weak for me. I am struggling. But you know, this is really special stuff, isn't it? That's what makes it so much fun. Thank you, John. Thank you, Stacy. Gene Steinmeier, perhaps the most famous resident of Claytonia, Nebraska, is a person who needs no introduction on this campus. However, I will take a few moments to share a few things about my good friend. In 15 years at Doane, Steiny had a career record of 360 and 141 and led Doane to 8 Nebraska Iowa Athletic Conference championships, 3 NAI District 11 championships, and 3 consecutive NAI national semifinal appearances. He was 5-time NAI District 11 Coach of the Year and was the Nebraska State College Coach of the Year twice. Steiny was inducted into the Doane Athletic Hall of Fame in 2009. And Steiny was Tom's choice to speak on his behalf. Steiny, please come forward. This is going to be fun.
Tripping getting up here, that shows my dexterity. I have to tell you a little story how I was selected up here. I had no idea I was the one selected. Tom called me up about a month ago and said, "Hey, you coming to my Hall of Fame induction?" And I said, "I don't know, Tom. I got a 16-year-old kid that plays baseball, and you know how rainouts and all that stuff." And he said, "Okay." And he calls back in about 2 weeks and he said, "Hey, Stein, you coming to my induction?" And I said, "Tom, I don't know. I got the schedule, it's flux. You know how baseball is." And he's got a grandson that plays in Nebraska, so he should know that stuff. I'm thinking, what's a big deal with Tom? Tom never cares if I'm there for this kind of stuff. Tom's a unique individual. They threw away the mold with Tom. And Monday, he called me up Monday, and he said, "Are you coming to my Hall of Fame?" And I said, "Yeah, Tom, I'm coming. The schedule looks clear. There's no rain in sight." He said, "Good. We just put your name on the program that you're introducing me." If you'd have said that right from the start, I would have agreed. I have to tell you how I met Tom. I had just become the head women's basketball coach at Wilbur Claytonia, kind of back in my hometown, and Connie was teaching there, and we knew somebody in common. They had taught at Ravenna, and a woman that I had just married, her and her former husband coached at Ravenna also. And I found out that Tom and this woman's ex-husband were really good friends. And I want you to know to this day, she still blames you for that divorce. Dr. Fred Brown, I have said many, many times, you were the best boss I ever had. You were just fantastic to me. You surrounded me with great people. One year you hired Tom Hood as the interim athletic director. Nobody bats 1,000. Tom, I was always jealous of you. You not only coached 19 All-Americans, 196 All-Conference players, but 100% of those athletes were deadly loyal to you. You don't dare say anything bad about that defensive coordinator, because you would have a whole defensive squad come down your throat. I don't think the women's basketball team ever quite felt that passion for their coach. Tom was a great defensive coordinator for one reason. And by the way, you thought, Lewis, you thought you had a real kick-ass team. You should have had him as a defensive coordinator. But anyway, Tom saved a lot of money because there was never a head coach that had to buy him any coaching gear. Tom was known to come to games in jeans, maybe speckled with paint, boots kind of caked with sheep poop. And no one ever had to worry about the coaching gear, but Tom, you were one hell of a head assistant coach. I don't know how popular you were with your head coaches, because you noticed you got some screwy women's basketball coach to introduce you. When I was at Wilbur Claytonia, I was a defensive coordinator, so I thought I knew something about football. And then I came here, and Tom would like to show me his game plans. Well, let me tell you, if you put his game plan here and my game plan here, it'd be like looking at an anatomy book here and a Playboy magazine here. The only thing mine was good for was looking at the pictures. Tom was good friends with the defensive coordinator at Northwest Missouri State, where I coached for 13 years. His name was Scott Bostwick. Scott Bostwick was very loyal. He waited 17 years to get his chance to be a head coach at Northwest Missouri State. Tom, I believe, was an assistant coach here for 24 years. Even though he really never desired to be the head coach, he was loyal to Doane, and those two had something in common. Now, sadly, Scott got his chance to coach, and before he could coach his first game, he died of a heart attack. But Scott and Tom, and I used to hire Tom to come down to referee some of my exhibition games down at Northwest, and we'd always get together after the game. And, well, first of all, Scott Bostwick was a defensive coordinator at Nebraska Wesleyan, and Tom, of course, here at Doane. And they would tell stories on when it was their turn to do something to the other team. There are things that that the statute of limitations had not run out on. But they had one thing in common. They were the two smartest defensive coaches I have ever met. And just to give you an idea about Scott, Scott coached against the Notre Dame coach when he was a defensive coordinator at Grand Valley State, and now the defensive coordinator for Notre Dame, who also held that job. And Tom, just of the two smartest defensive coaches I've ever known, Tom would be number one in my book. Tom, congratulations. That will not be in a Playboy magazine.
It won't even make Maxim, I don't think. Big print, Dave. I was going to wear my reading glasses so you couldn't see me cry, but I found so many grandkids' thumbprints on it that wouldn't work either. Cody, I have so much to say. I'm so overwhelmed. It's going to take me a while, and so help me if you put that playoff music, you're off the Christmas list. This is my Oscar moment. I can't thank everybody individually. I have family here. No, I have a legion over here. But I must thank them as a group, because I was the one voted least likely to make it past 25 years of age, and then most likely to fall flat on one's face. I gave that a good shot a year and a half ago, and it didn't work well there either. I come from a different background than a lot of these other people who had to work hard. I had everything handed to me. I did my best to screw it up. They wouldn't let it happen, and here I am today. But I must thank coaches Papik, Erickson, and Biley, because they make this whole thing happen. I must thank Jose Glenn when I was hired here first. He showed us much about assertiveness and self-esteem. Nate Hinkle inadvertently taught me that a zone defense is not a coverage, it's a way of life. Brian Neighbor taught Dahl and I how to actually hit your opponent in the mouth every play and get by with it. Fran Swank, who doggedly followed all of those kids around campus and made sure they graduated. And he put up with a maverick for most of my time here. As Stein said, I don't think I was the prototype coach. I had to find a way to do it my way. I must also thank the players. These kids would respond quickly to everything that I asked. They had no paralysis. They played fast. And no, I didn't tell them to, but they played to the echo of the whistle. They were so much fun to watch. They were fun to be around. Fred Brown and your Doane College provided an atmosphere whereby we could devise a program to teach these kids to work smart and do their job and be graceful. Most importantly, here it comes. Hermie and Ed. Dale Herman would watch film after practice, go home, see his family and kids have supper. He would show up from his real job about 5 minutes before practice. He would look at the notes that I made, devise a plan on the way up the hill, and make this practice so meaningful to those defensive linemen. And he did this for the good of it. Ed was constantly wrangling those kids to act like a human being, yet compete. And we were fast friends, and we are fast friends, and that made that thing go. The nature of this award for me is rather odd because unlike these other people, I received this award for riding the backs of young men. I didn't do anything, yet I'm honored. These young men were remarkably energetic and steadfast. I recall a day in Findlay, Ohio. Before our ball game out there, I was having coffee with Brian Moody and Dave Ball, two of my defensive linemen. And this was an onerous task. But I said, boys, we're in for a battle today. And Moods looked over at Ball and he said, Coach, this is a good day to fight. And boy, did they fight, and I just couldn't come up with another stop for them. What a bunch of guys these were. It's such a great joy to see how all of these guys have grown and prospered to be family people and very successful in their lives, and that's most meaningful. One of the things I didn't look for, one of the things I really failed to see was the big picture when I asked Fred Brown if I could step down. I was thinking that, well, surely somebody could step in and handle this job as well or better than I, and I was right there. I don't miss the game day so much, and I work with a bunch of kids every day who are marvelous. It's exciting to be around them. But there's still a hole. There's something that's missing that was there before. These kids on campus who were, I don't think they were in middle school when I last claimed to be a coach, call me coach. I think it was literal, or somebody in a class last fall some kid had to interview a coach, and that poor kid got me for a subject. And he was so nice. And so he was asking me the typical questions, how did you do this, and what was it like? And he's just very diligently writing all of this stuff down, and I could just see in his face, this guy's old. But his last question he asked me really struck me. He said, how did you do that? Didn't you get bored? And he wasn't ready for this, but I said, I've known nothing else. I've known nothing else. I was a Doane person when my brother started coming to school here, I believe in the late 50s, 1950s, thank you. And I've been here ever since in some manner. I just feel, though, irrelevant at times. Stephen Crane, an author, sometimes poet, wrote, "A man said to the universe, 'Sir, I exist.' However," replied the universe, "the fact has not created in me a sense of obligation. We all need to be relevant in a changing world." This is relevant. Thank you so much, everybody.
You'd grab a quick seat. I have a couple things to mention, then I'll let you guys go. This was awesome. This was absolutely awesome. I have a couple of quick things I want to say. What Gene forgot to say about Hoodie is that besides the cowboy boots and the blue jeans, forgot the yellow rain slicker and the Cleveland Indians baseball cap, which made its way to the games as well. One quick story. Tom was a remarkable defensive coordinator. In 1993, we had a great team, one of our playoff teams. Chris Bessler, Matt Franzen, on that team, they were seniors, and we were ahead late in the game. But playing at Colorado Mines, the altitude would get you at the end because it was really hot, and the field was really high. And Mines is making their last drive down the field. I was doing the game on the campus radio station. It was by myself in a booth, in a radio booth in the old press box there, calling the game, and it was a nail biter, went right down to the end. And there was a time, I think we took a timeout, and the players were gassed. I mean, it was hot, high altitude. And then we started playing again, and I looked out on the field, and Tom still remembers this too. 11 guys on the field. Chris, you were one of them. 11 guys out there. Hoodie's response. Nobody came out. Nobody came out. I think it was 4th and goal at the 4. The quarterback rolled to the left. He tried to pitch it over our current defensive coordinator, Chris Bessler, who's 6'5". Chris swatted that ball like it was a badminton so far back. I think they actually caught the ball, but the guy was tackled at about the 25-yard line. We won the game, but that was a memorable game, and just great defense that game.